Thank you. Thank you. So, how many of you would say you are creative? Raise your hands. Okay, good. In 2012, Adobe did a study, and they asked a very simple question. It was a global study, and they asked, how many of you think you're creative? And they asked 5,000 adults, and only 39% said that they were creative. And the question I have is, why is that number so low? So I started to study it, and I did a very extensive study. I asked people. But I started with my circle, people who have creative in their title, designers and writers and photographers, and asked them if they were creative and what creativity meant. And then I expanded that to engineers and developers, people who are one step away from having creative in their title. And then I started getting farther and farther away from that designation. Started asking retail workers and office workers, construction guys, stay-at-home moms, people that are doing the real work, right? Started asking them, are you creative? And that number, that 39% number, was actually fairly accurate to what I was finding. But it wasn't accurate to what I was seeing in them. And that number sort of haunted me a little bit. Why is that number so low? And what I found was that there were really two great misconceptions about what creativity is. And the first one is that we have somehow attached it to artistry. That people think that they're not creative because they can't draw or paint or write. And that attachment to artistry is keeping people from believing that they have any creativity whatsoever. We hear it all the time, don't we? I don't have a creative bone in my body, which just simply isn't true. Creativity and artistry are not connected. You can use art to be creative, but they're not mutually exclusive. I think it comes with the definition we have for creativity. See, if I asked all of you what the definition of creativity is, you'd all give me a different answer. What a strange thing in our environment for someone to have completely different answers to the definition of something. And so I started putting together a definition that I felt was a little bit more absolute. At its core, creativity is problem solving. But that definition alone isn't enough, is it? Because we've been able to see people's solutions and go, well, that one's better than that one. And if it's just problem solving, that means that it's completely absolute. And we know that there's a certain amount of subjectivity inside of creativity. It's because that definition alone has two characteristics: relevance and novelty. Creativity is problem solving with relevance and novelty. Relevance is how well we've solved the problem, because a problem has to be present for us to be creative. And novelty is the degree of uniqueness or originality that solution possesses. To be creative, we have to have both. See, we as adults, we are serial problem solvers. We have relevance down, right? When we're confronted with a problem, we solve it immediately. It's novelty that we struggle with. And what's interesting, kids, the exact opposite. Great at novelty, terrible at relevance, right? We all have that experience. So from an adult standpoint, if we want to be more creative, we have to solve problems with both relevance and novelty, and it's novelty that we struggle with. See, that leads us to that second misconception about creativity, and that it's a talent. We've come to believe that creativity is simply a talent that some people have and others don't. And that's not true either. Creativity isn't a talent. If it's problem solving, that means it's a skill. And that has a huge ramification. It means that we can get better at it. Few of us have ever really thought about creativity as something that we can improve at. We believe it's just something that is this innate force, this mystical thing that sometimes comes and greets us, usually when we're not expecting it. But it's not. It's a skill. We can generate ideas in greater quantity and quality if we practice. But how do you practice creativity? Isn't that the great question? You solve problems with relevance and novelty, and you'll get better at it. And I'm going to prove that here today with a little silly, stupid, creative exercise that you're all going to do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring up a couple of volunteers who are going to do it on stage with me. Where are my volunteers. Here we go. Give them a round of applause. Come on up, guys. You guys are going to be right here, okay? You guys, you have little pads of paper in front of you, okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a partner, okay? I want you to get a partner. Hey, you got a partner. All right, so I want you to get a partner, so you're doing this together, okay? I'm going to give you a little creative exercise here in the morning. We're all aware of the real value of breakfast cereal, right? The prize in the bottom, that's right. So, I mean, we'll dig through that cereal to get the prize, right? All the cereal's flying out, we just want the prize. Now imagine if boxes of breakfast cereal were around during the nostalgic era of the American Wild Wild West. What could have been in those boxes as prizes? So here's what you're going to do. You guys, as a pair, as a team, I want you to come up with a list of ideas, things that could have been in boxes of breakfast cereal if they were around during the Wild West. So the two of you are going to come up with one list, but I'm only going to give you 3 minutes to do it, okay? I'm only going to give you 3 minutes to do it. You guys, I want you to do it right here on the board. So talk through it and just start writing out your list. Ready? Go. So you just write them out. As many as you can. This is a volume exercise. As many as you can. Just keep generating ideas. Write as many out as you can. Yeah, keep them going. Work through it together. Generate ideas together. Write one list. All right, you're 30 seconds in. You're 30 seconds in. Keep going. Good. Keep going. As many as you can. Take big ideas and break them down into small ideas. Keep going. You're 1 minute in. 1 minute in. You got 2 minutes left. Keep it going. These are good. Keep going. As many as you can. Volume. Just keep talking through it. You don't need to draw them out. These aren't pictures. All you designers trying to draw things out. Write them out. Keep going. Keep going. You're about halfway. About halfway. Keep going. Did you put a question mark? It's an idea. Just throw it down there. It's okay. Keep going. Keep going. As many as you can. Don't steal any of theirs. Don't look up here and steal any. Eyes on your own paper. You got 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Keep it going. Keep it going. On the home stretch. Keep going. You got about 30 seconds left. Keep it moving. 30 seconds left. Those are good. Keep going. Keep it moving. As many as you can. You got about 10 seconds left. 10 seconds. You got a couple more in you. Let's go. Good. Time. All right. Good job, guys. Give it up for them. Give them a hand. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you. You're good. Yeah, you're good. So, stop laughing. So, what did we learn? All right, so first and foremost, what you just did was you just entered into the creative process, whether you know it or not. I gave you a problem to solve, and you had the opportunity to solve it with relevance and novelty, right here and there. And we learned 3 things about our own creative process in this exercise. See, the first thing that we learned is the excuse that we give ourselves for why we can't generate more ideas. The number one excuse we give ourselves is that we don't have time. I don't have time to generate more ideas. I have to solve this problem and move on. I've got a whole stack of other problems I have to keep going on to. I have to get started making something. And so we solve it in one or two responses, and then we move on. But it's really not time, is it? Because in just 3 minutes, they generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ideas. Some of you generated more than 20 ideas. There'll be a few of you that generated more than 30 ideas in just 3 minutes. So it's not time, it's motivation, which is awesome. That's great news, because you guys are an infinite well of ideas if you'll choose to be motivated. See, motivation we can turn on and off like a switch. Time, on the other hand, we can't do anything about. But you can choose to be motivated at any moment. And I motivated you with this exercise because it's a stupid exercise and because you're competing against everybody else at your table, right? And you were motivated to do so. You can choose to turn it on and off anytime that you want. The second thing that we learn about our creative process is that we remember that it really is a process. We have this vision that creativity is this moment, that somehow we're in the shower and boom, we're struck with lightning. I don't know what all of you are doing in the shower, but creativity isn't a moment. That moment isn't what creativity is. That's the result of creativity. See, creativity is a process, and it has to play out. See, you went through your lists, okay? The first couple of items on your list, if you shouted them out, you would see that they're on everyone else's list too, aren't they? If we look at some of the first things on here, bullets, rattlesnake venom, antibiotics, a pistol, a belt buckle. These are all things that you'll probably find on your lists too. And that's what we end up doing, don't we? As adults, we solve the problem and then we move on. But unfortunately, we start making the things that we've solved and we put them out in the world and we find out they look just like everybody else's because everyone else did the exact same thing. Now, if you start looking at the last few items on your list, you'll start seeing some very interesting things, won't you? Some things that aren't exactly normal responses. You can see a few here. A halter. Whiskey. That's a box of cereal I want, right? In order for us to get to those ideas, we have to get the expected out. And that's part of the process. And unfortunately, inside of our lives, we're so time crunched that we try to take this entire creative process and bring it down into 15 minutes. Let's go into this room for 15 minutes and solve this problem. But it doesn't work that way. All you're going to get are expected ideas. We have to go through the process to find that novelty. And the last thing that we learn about the creative process that this exercise has shown us is that if creativity really is problem solving, then we should be able to graph it, and we can. I'm going to give you the shape of ideation. This is the graph of what you guys just went through in your creative exercise. Let's graph this, okay? Any good graph's got a vertical and a horizontal, okay? Our vertical, we're going to call Q, the quantity or quality of ideas that you generated. And our horizontal is time. All ideation happens over the course of time. In this particular instance, it was 3 minutes. Sometimes it's 20 minutes on your way home. Sometimes it's an hour and a half in a brainstorm session. So as soon as I gave you the problem, because you're an adult, you started solving it in your head. That's what grown-ups do. And so when I said go, you had 2 or 3 ideas already, and so did your partner. And so you spouted out those ideas, and then you reacted to each other's ideas. But then this started to happen, didn't it? It started to come down, and you started looking back up here, and you started listening to the people around you, right? You're like, what else can we do? You started looking to see if there are any answers up here. But then something happened, and it turned, and you generated a whole bunch more ideas before this bottomed out, right? Now, this bottoming out happens either mechanically or organically. Mechanically is me calling time. Organically is you really are out of ideas, so you just stop, right? I've always been interested in this shape in what happened right there. What happened at that turn? It's usually when someone said something stupid. If you go back on your lists, about halfway down, there's an idea that's stupid. And it sparked a whole bunch more ideas to where you were like, oh, okay, if that's where we're playing, okay, then now we can say this and this and this and this and this, right? Now, I use this term stupid in the most loving way possible. The reality is, these are absurd ideas. Something sparked more. This absurdity happened. And that's drastically important. Stupidity, absurdity, is part of the creative process. And inside of our corporate environments, we try to rip it out. We try to pull it out because it doesn't feel professional. It feels childlike. But inside of this, inside of that moment, is brilliance. Here's the other thing that happens. We talk about solving problems with relevance and novelty. In general, these ideas have a tendency to be more relevant. Those ideas have a tendency to be more novel. So if you look at your lists, the ideas that you came up with first, they fit in the box. They're small items. They existed at that time. But then after stupid, you get into some more novel ideas. See, from an ideation standpoint, most of the ideas we generate have to be pushed forward to be interesting. They have to be pushed forward because we're usually in a society of attachers and improvers. And innovation comes through stupidity, right? We want to be able to start with novel and pull them back into relevance because innovation happens there. Creativity happens there. And if we struggle from a novel standpoint, we need to get to stupid faster. If there's anything that we learn about this, it's two things. One, this process plays out every single time. Every time you generate ideas, this is what the graph looks like. And if that's true, then you can plan for it. You can bring what you need to bring to get to stupid faster. Problem solving with relevance and novelty. That's what creativity is. And as such, that definition now brings in more people into the creative fold. It brings in the engineer who develops a part for a machine to make it work. It brings in the mom who finds a way to make 5 meals out of the 3 ingredients in her pantry. And it brings in you, because every single day you solve problems with relevance and novelty, and you can do it with a greater degree if you'll practice. Thank you.